It's Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we're joined by Bill Brand. He is a councilman in Redondo Beach, announced his intention to run for mayor, election in March. I want to speak with you about one of the most significant issues facing you in your race, but the city generally, and that is development and how beautiful Redondo Beach should undergo development. Talk us through the issues with regard to the waterfront development.
Yeah, well, there's a huge project in the works in King Harbor. We've been trying to revitalize our waterfront for quite some time and embark on a public-private partnership.
Right.
And we've done that, but unfortunately what's come out of that process is a very large development project that I believe the majority of the residents are against. And as a result, some other residents have written an initiative,
Right.
qualified it for the ballot, that reduces the zoning and prevents a project of that scale moving forward.
So it's complicated, but there was a zoning measure, we won't get into the weeds, called Measure G a few years back that allowed for this type of zoning. Now there's Measure C, which will be on the March ballot. And if you vote yes on Measure C, what are you saying?
Well, it reduces the zoning ultimately of the waterfront area that we've been talking about.
And when you say reduces the zoning, meaning it reduces the size of projects?
Well, it doesn't necessarily reduce the allowable square footage, but it puts certain constraints in there that protect view corridors, protect parks and open space, and require a boat ramp that can actually be used and be safe. So, and it also prevents large parking structures west of Harbor Drive. This current project has a 45-foot tall, 700-car parking structure in the Ruby's parking lot, right next to a 45-foot tall movie theater. So it protects those views much more strongly than what you see in this particular project.
So talk to us more about your objections, because look, development conversations could get very nasty and get very complicated. I presume that you are not opposed to development of this area.
Oh, absolutely not. And it needs a revitalization, and it needs a small amount of growth. I'm more the slow growth advocate.
But what about this spot, though?
Well, this spot's very sensitive, and it's right on the water.
Right.
It's on the very westernmost edge of the landmass, owned by Redondo Beach, of course. And the problem with this project is it's just gotten out of hand. It's gotten way, way, way too big. And so while all of us want to revitalize the area, there's a slogan going around, revitalize, don't supersize, which makes a lot of sense. This project is more than doubling development, which will more than double the traffic, which will build on the small amount of public open space that we have there. It's just gone way too far.
Because right now there's a Ruby's and a parking lot.
Well, there's some other development there. Yeah, and there's a nice sport fishing pier there. There's several areas there that are available for redevelopment. So
are they all consolidated into one owned landmass?
Yeah, so the land is owned by the city, right? And we're looking at entering into a 99-year lease with this mall developer, basically, CenterCal Properties. But catty corner to that is the 50-acre AES site, which is for sale. And so I've been meeting with a lot of developers, including Rick Caruso, who are looking at these properties.
Developed the Grove, the Commons in Calabasas.
And they look catty corner over at this project and basically want to know what the status of it is. Is that going to happen? Because if that project happens, obviously, you know, we're going to have to build a lot of residential catty corner to it to support it.
But
so then you end up with this piecemeal overdevelopment in the waterfront and then overdevelopment at the asset.
What about moving the CenterCal project to the EES site? Because the AES site, I don't think is as sensitive. It's not directly on the waterfront.
Well, no, that's exactly, it's funny you're going there with this.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm proposing. And one of the reasons I'm running for mayor. Because we have to coordinate and create a comprehensive plan that includes the AES site. We should not have bifurcated those two parcels. And that way you can do a proper revisioning, rezoning, spreads out the impacts, put the parks and recreational and open space stuff down on the waterfront where it belongs.
Of course.
And back up the commercial over more on the AES site so that you can have a much larger economic project to minimize the amount of public participation you'll have to have. But when you break it up into these smaller pieces, it doesn't favor public amenities, that sort of thing. You end up with
Measure
too much overdevelopment.
C speak to the AES site?
No. That will be separate. Well, it's debatable because this project is in the here and now. And so ultimately, I would like to see a comprehensive rezoning, revisioning. But, the residents were concerned about what was coming. Measure G and what it was allowing created really kind of this overdevelopment project that the majority of the residents are opposed to. So they were addressing that particular area. But I think in the long term, you'll be looking at both areas as one.
So as
hopefully
Measure C is on the ballot, the mayor's race is on the ballot, the city council, I believe a few are up for re-election or election. Is CenterCal the issue that's dominating everyone's thoughts during this March campaign season when nothing else is on the ballot?
Well, there's a lot on the ballot, but that is definitely front and center, and it defines very well the difference between the candidates and their policies. I mean, I'm against the CenterCal project, and Mayor Aspel has been pushing it for many, many years. Likewise, you've got candidates running for city council who are against it, and others that they're for it, but they're kind of running from it now, saying things like, well, we'll just let and see what the voters decide on Measure C, which really, of course, they'll have to follow what they say in Measure C because that'll be the law of the land, and that's not really leadership. But the people that are really leading proper revitalization are against this overdevelopment project and for Measure C. So it's a little bit tricky to be against the project. You need to be for Measure C.
So how do you run an independent campaign while Measure C is dominating the news?
Well, I'm just running my own campaign. There are other issues.
I mean, I keep thinking about Kathleen Brown and Pete Wilson. When they ran in 1994, they could run all the campaigns they want, but Prop 187 was what everyone was talking about, and he was for it, and she was against it, and it defined the candidates.
And that's kind of what's going on now.
That's what I'm wondering.
And it's important. It should define the candidates. There's been huge overdevelopment projects in the works in Redondo happening now that really define the candidates and the future of Redondo Beach. And it's incumbent upon the residents to figure out, what the policies are of each of the candidates, what their policies are, who's who in the zoo, and vote correctly. And so it's a little bit of homework, but if you pay a little bit of attention, these propositions and issues really help define for people.
But I also wonder, I think back to Proposition 8, was that right? Which was outlawing gay marriage. If you voted yes, you were in favor of outlawing. If you voted no, you were in favor of keeping marriage equality. People got confused, so yes meant no and no meant yes. In this case,
don't help them here, Brad.
But this is the same thing.
It is the same thing.
If you vote yes on C, you're voting no on CenterCal.
You're voting no on this particular project because the president of CenterCal has said that if Measure C passes, then he won't be able to do a project of this scale, which is fine with most of the residents. I've been showing pictures. They have pictures of their model, and all you got to do is show pictures of their model, and people are just incensed at what's coming.
Let's presume C passes. What do you envision for that piece, that plot, that large plot?
Well, some dominoes need to fall. C needs to pass.
Not Domino's Pizza?
C needs to pass. I need to get elected. Todd Lowenstein, Nils Nierenheim, and Susie Royds need to get elected. And then we will look at a comprehensive plan for the waterfront. And that will send the signal to the big developers like Rick Caruso and others that, okay, Redondo is going to do a real revitalization that includes their entire waterfront and not this piecemeal.
And they can play a part?
Oh, absolutely. They will play a part. A lot of people are saying that they're not interested if CenterCal doesn't get through.
Right.
That's nonsense.
His name is Bill Brand. He is a councilman in Redondo Beach running for mayor March 7th election. I'm Brad Pomerance, Local Edition.